and more Mississippians can enjoy a farm-to-table approach with their dairy. Beason Family Farm of Philadelphia, Mississippi, processes and sells their milk and ice cream from a storefront from their farm, as well as throughout 45 local shops in central Mississippi. And joining us today on Good Things to share a little more about life on the farm is Mr. Shelby Beason. Hey, Shelby.
Hi, Miss Rebecca.
How's the weather there in Philadelphia? We're hanging tight here in central Mississippi.
Yes, ma'am. It's the same way here. The wind's blowing, getting gusty and sprinkling a little bit. It looks like we're going to have a line of storms move through in just a few minutes.
And that's like any other business. When a storm brews up, things on the farm either keep going or maybe they halt. So I hope some of your to-do lists got done today, because I know life on a dairy isn't always sunshine and rainbows. And it takes a lot of passion to be a dairy farmer these days, Shelby. So give us a little background about your family farm. How did the Beasons find themselves in the dairy business?
Yes, ma'am. I've always had ever since 4-H, I showed dairy cattle in 4-H with my cousins that had a dairy at the time, and since have went out of business. And that at that time is when I fell in love with the Jersey breed and the style of dairy in general. But I have just a small operation here, and it's hard to make a living dairying the conventional way. So I found out about Billy Joe Brown up in Oxford. It started up an operation similar to this, and when I found out about him, I thought that was something that we could do and make work here in the central part of the state. And it's really, in my opinion, on a small scale, the only way to make a living dairy farming in these days.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, Shelby, the fact that I think it's like 98% of U.S. dairy farms are still family-owned and operated. Oftentimes we get these big ideas or vision of whatever factory farming, whatever that word means to you, in our head. But really it's our local mom-and-pop operations, like our dairy farm families here in Mississippi, that are sort of still making that kind of milk, cheese, and yogurt goodness happen. I think you guys, though, you're milk and ice cream, though, right?
Yes, ma'am. We do fluid milk. We do whole milk, chocolate milk, buttermilk, and we've been doing that coming on 10 years. And then about 2 years ago, we started doing ice cream. We make we have 4 flavors: vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, and lemon. And we don't have them in all of our locations. We have just certain places around the areas of the state that we do the ice cream in, because we do that manufacture that on a smaller scale. But it's been good.
I got a tweet, Shelby, that your buttermilk is some of the best that's out there, and they wait in line for Beason buttermilk. So I know the product's pretty delicious. What was it like when you first started bottling it and selling it, and people were responding very positively?
Yes, ma'am. Our processing is a little different. We pasteurize at a low temp for a longer period of time than the conventional way, and our milk is non-homogenized. Our fat varies a little bit through the year, so the homogenization, the reason that's done in the conventional way is to make a gallon of milk the same every time, and ours will vary a little bit through the year depending on our grass primarily. But the reason people like that buttermilk and our whole milk is higher in fat. In order to call whole milk by law, it has to be 3.25% fat. Our milk, like I said, varies a little bit through the year depending on our grass, but it never hardly drops below 4.5%, and most of the year it stays up around 5% fat. So it's higher in fat, and that gives it a better taste. And as far as the buttermilk, having that extra fat does a better job of cooking, making biscuits or cornbread and that kind of thing.
You've got us hungry, Shelby. Either we want cornbread now with a glass of buttermilk, or we're looking forward to warmer days for some ice cream. And I think one good thing that came out of the entire sort of pandemic experience is people are getting back connected to where their food comes from. Have you guys seen a sort of increase in Mississippians and those in your area there in Philadelphia looking for local farms to get their dairy or to get their other products?
Yes, ma'am, we certainly have. Whenever when initially everything shut down, a lot of our business is restaurants, and we were kind of concerned, when all the restaurants started having to shut down. But I can tell you, these little farmer market type, curbside type markets that we're in just took off in sales, 4 or 5 times the dollar figure that they had been selling when everything shut down. So they more than made up for our loss in restaurants. And as the restaurants started back up, then that waned a little bit. But our sales have continued to rise. I think a lot of people, our milk is a little more expensive on the shelf compared to some of the other name brands. But once they, tried it, they could tell a difference and seen the value in it and have stuck with it.
I saw on your Facebook page there for Beason Family Farm, you guys are celebrating 10 years by buying a new refrigerated truck. That had to be a big purchase and a big deal. What does it feel like being 10 years in operation?
It's been great. It seems like it don't seem like it's been 10 years, and I'm looking forward to 10 more plus. But yeah, the refrigerated truck's been great. We've ever since probably a year after we started, we've been using a refrigerated trailer, just pulling it behind a pickup truck, and it's worked okay. But we put a lot of, we run 1,000 to 1,200 mile route every week, and those trailers just don't hold up to the wear and tear of our Mississippi roads, and the weight we were hauling on them. So this is going to be more durable, and in our hot summers, the trailers struggled to keep the temperature like we needed it, and the truck will do a better job of that too.
Most of us listening to Good Things, Shelby, have never worked a day on a dairy farm. We may have driven by one. We may have even gotten the opportunity to visit one with our kids now that more field trips are leaning towards visiting agriculture and farms and such. But we don't have the empathy of what it's like for a day on the farm. So what's a day like on the farm for you guys?
Well, there's a lot of things never change. We do the same thing day in and day out, twice a day. We start every morning about 5:30 getting cows up to milk the cows for the AM milking, and then we do the same thing at 5:30 p.m. And of course feeding the baby calves and all the younger stock. Has to be done every day, but kind of in between that is part of what I like about the job, and that is no 2 days are the same. Some days I'm a truck driver. Some days I'm a equipment operator. Some days I'm a mechanic. Those aren't the good days. But it changes up from day to day, and that's part of the enjoyment I have. And another thing that I enjoy about what we're doing, we're taking a product that some people just walk across and disregard, and that's grass. And we're taking that grass and turn it into a product that's feeding people, and I think that's neat and enjoy that aspect of it also.
And it would be fair to say that every cow on that farm, Shelby, is part of your family. Again, looking through your Facebook feed, I saw wonderful photos of your children and some of the dairy cows, and I think people often take for granted how much the dairy farmers actually love and care for those cows day in and day out. A happy cow makes happy milk.
Right, and a cow that's not being taken care of isn't producing milk. A lot of people, and we've gotten into this some on social media. They'll look at a picture of my wife's posted pictures, and we're real careful now about what we post. But a picture of a milk cow, and they some people that don't understand look at that cow and think she's not being taken care of because a fat milk cow is not doing her job. Whenever you look at a milk cow, you should be able to see her hip bones and some of her ribs. These cows are bred to be really good at converting their feed to milk. So the more I feed them, the more milk they'll produce. So it's in my best interest to feed them as much as we can get them to eat. And that becomes an issue in the hot summertime. They don't want to eat as much when it gets hot because digestion creates heat. But I'm saying all that to tell you that if you see a milk cow that looks fat, she's not a very good converter of her feed to milk. So I just wanted to get that out there. When people see pictures that we post on Facebook or just pictures of milk cows in general, That's just what we call dairy character.
Well, Mr. Shelby, stick with us. We got a few more questions for you coming up next here on Good Thing More. And if you didn't know, February is Lactose Intolerance Awareness Month. That could be you. And it's good to remind you that you do not have to cut out milk from your diet just because of a sensitivity. There are all kinds of brands and products on the shelf to help you still enjoy milk. And joining us on Good Things to continue our conversation is Mr. Shelby Beason. Him and his wife are owners and operators of Beason Family Farm in Philadelphia, Mississippi. So you guys have a storefront. I want to make sure we got to the storefront there on your property, Shelby, as well as be able to be found in some local shops and restaurants around. What are the operating hours for on the farm?
We unlock the doors every morning at 5:30 whenever we go out to start milking, and we lock back up about 8:30 or 9 every night whenever we finish. We kind of have a self-serve set up there, honor system to where people can come in there and get what they want, and we have a bucket there with some money in it. So if they need to make change, they just get what they want, and make their own change.
Wow, that's really taking it sort of back to, I guess, well, maybe not back the way it used to be, but the way a community should operate. But I think when you start to develop those relationships with your local farmers and your local producers, then that is one of the benefits that sort of come out, and you get stronger as a community. I know it's Beason Family Farm, so how many of your family is out there working the farm every day besides maybe you and your lovely wife? Do you get the kids out there and doing chores?
Well, my two oldest kids have graduated out, and they're doing their own thing now away from the farm. But my youngest son, Landon's 14, and he helps us a lot on the farm.
It's always good to have those chores to get outside and get fresh air that way. But you came into dairying a little bit different. You weren't necessarily handed down or the next generation. You kind of chose this path, which to me is very interesting. You don't find a lot of folks choosing to go into the dairy operation anymore due to the hard work and just, the volatile sort of state of agriculture right now. What really drove you to do that?
Well, like I said earlier, I just had a love for the dairy and for the dairy industry and the breed of Jersey cows, and I was lucky enough to be able to this place that we're farming was my grandfather's. He bought this particular land that we're on here after he come back from World War II, and I was able to purchase it from my dad and his siblings, and so this land has been on I grew up on this place and just enjoy being able to make a living on it. We were talking about earlier, things that are what I enjoy about it also is the connection with our customers. It's hardly a day goes by that me or my wife don't get a call from someone that has tried our milk and just loves it. A lot of the older people say they haven't been able to they remember the taste of our milk from their childhood whenever they grew up on a small farm and maybe had a family milk cow. And then we have people that thought they were lactose intolerant. They were kind of described as lactose intolerant, and they're actually not lactose intolerant. They're intolerant to the homogenization process. So they're able to enjoy our milk where they haven't been able to before. It's nice for, to get, they tell you, keep up the good work, and they enjoy our product, and I enjoy that too.
Absolutely. I think that's, again, just sort of the beauty of getting connected and knowing who your producers are, where you can ask those questions. I appreciate you and your wife taking the time to maybe answer questions on social media about folks who may think they, a picture's not always worth 1,000 words if you don't understand what the picture, necessarily is relaying. And so are there other myths that you would love folks to know about our farm families, particularly when it comes to dairy, that may be floating around that you would love to squash today on Good Things?
No, ma'am.
Not opening up that soapbox.
Anything comes to mind.
That's okay. Okay, but other things, we are getting texts in wanting to know, if not necessarily in the Philadelphia area, where are some other places or stores where people can go and get Beason Family Farms milk?
Yes, ma'am. I can name some. I'd be scared I'd leave something out, but I'll just kind of give you our general area to start with. We go as far north as Starkville and Brooksville. As far south as Hattiesburg, west over to Jackson, and east to Meridian. So within that area, down in Hattiesburg, we're in some corner markets, and also one in Jackson there on Northside Drive. We're in Whole Foods there on Northside Drive. Some of the restaurants that use our milk is Walker's, Kate's, Local 463, Mama Hamill's, and Meridian Weidman's, and then some other areas that places that retail it are some Piggly Wigglies, the Piggly Wiggly in Carthage, Collinsville, Union, Sebastopol. We're in some Vowels marketplaces in Philadelphia here and in Forest. The Cash Saver's owned by the Vowels in Meridian.
You are putting that refrigerated truck to work,
Yeah,
Shelby.
yes, ma'am. Like I said, we travel 1,000 to 1,200 miles a week. I don't want to leave anybody out either. Carol's there in Ellisville, they have our milk.
And I do see that there's a good list of it, too, over on y'all's website, which is Beason, Beason, familyfarm.com, if people want to go for it there, as well as following you on your Facebook. I'm sure just ask a question and you would be helping.
Yes, ma'am, at Facebook. We keep it up to date a little better probably than our website.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, I appreciate you taking over the reins and making a delicious product and sharing your story with us here on Good Things.
Yes, ma'am. I enjoyed it.
All righty. There you go. Get to know your farmer. You can ask all the questions that you want, and you usually get a pretty honest answer. So we've got some coming in on the text line. Keith and Meridian, not a big fan of straight buttermilk, but my granny's buttermilk biscuits were out of this world good. Keep up the good job, producers. And Jason, our Good Things listener there from Arizona, said he would kill for some locally produced ice cream. Definitely one thing you miss about home here in Mississippi. You ain't getting none of that in the middle of the desert. And we were all year is ice cream season. And if you've never had homemade ice cream from a local source dairy, you are missing out on a treat like none other. And if you've never, and he did mention, I mean, it is a little bit more of a premium product than maybe what's on your local shelf. You don't have to go straight to it for all of your fluid milk needs. But if you see it in the grocery there at one of the many locations statewide, give a gallon a try. If your family's enjoying milk with meals, or maybe your kids are at that age they're still guzzling it down, I promise you. Or just do it for the whole purpose of trying to figure out if there's a difference. Say, you know what is this difference that they're talking about? You will be pleasantly surprised at the fact that it has just a creamier, sort of thicker and richer. It's hard to sort of describe without you having experienced it. But the chocolate milk, too, is always